It's the match preview. Welcome along, and we're here to discuss Luton Town travelling to Elland Road to take on Leeds United. And with me, but not travelling there, it's my co-host, as always, it's Mark Ryman. How are we getting on this evening, Mark?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, not travelling to Leeds on a Wednesday night. It's I'm not that much of a glutton for punishment, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it will be pretty brutal. I think the extent of my travelling that day will be going to the Brickies to watch the game surrounded by other Luton Town fans. I think that's probably my limit when it comes to punishment. But before we proceed on the podcast, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, why not? Come along, join our journey. And we talk Luton Town. We also talk the Championship. Yeah, check it out. Have a little nose around our channel. But let's dive straight in and have a brief recap of Luton Town 1, Hull 0. Right, we've done so many of these, Ryman, haven't we, already? I think this is our third show tonight. So we'll do it very briefly.
At least it's a win. Usually we have to talk about a loss 4 or 5 times in a row. I lose the will to live after the Borough game. So yeah, I'm happier talking about a 1-0 win over and over again.
Mm-hmm. It was improvement. Defensively, we looked good, other than the times when Hull completely cut us open.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they didn't have their shooting boots. They missed 3 quite gilt-edged chances. There's still room for improvement from Luton Town, isn't there?
Oh, miles of room. But I think that, I don't think anyone really, after watching the Borough game and how we performed all season, bar Sunderland and Watford, really thought that this game was going to suddenly turn things around in one fell swoop. I just didn't see it happening. You've said the same thing. We want to see some fight and spirit, and we got that. Against a, let's put it, mildly, unorthodox team in the way that they set up. They're quite fun to watch. I would say that. I mean, Hull fans probably utterly miserable the fact they can't score for love nor money, and it's a good job they can't. But
great fans though. They were making noise throughout, and even after they lost, they were still singing and clapping their team. It was remarkable.
Yeah, and they always have been. They've always been noisy when they come down to Kenilworth Road. But I think they looked really good. They played some fluid football. They had about 75% possession at one point. And they did look good. And their left back, who should be their right back, looked pretty handy as well, right?
Yeah, he did. He was, Cody Drammer. What could have been? What could have been if Luton Town had just signed him? He was a free agent. We should have signed him, but I'm glad that game's done. I don't know how Hull was so far down, probably just because they can't finish. But otherwise, yeah, they knocked the ball around really well, especially in a storm with gale force winds, pissing down rain. They moved the ball around so well. But let's have a little look at the team news ahead of Luton's trip to Leeds. The team news, quite a good bill of health for Luton Town, I must say. Other than Alfie Doughty, who's out with ligament damage until, possibly the new year. Reece Burke went off injured. Shander Baptiste went off injured. Tom Krause went off injured. Ruel Walters, who continues to be a long-term absence. Jordan Clark comes back, though, from a 1-game suspension. Carlton Morris is obviously on walking the tightrope. He has 1 yellow card left until he is suspended. Hopefully he doesn't pick one up against Leeds, because it would be great for him to go back to his boyhood team of Norwich. I think I've got all of them there. I can't think of anyone else that would be missing, right?
Well, Bell, we still don't know, do we?
He pulled out, didn't he?
Yeah, and after Adebayo prior to Manu, I think it was last season, and then that was him out for a long time. I've since learned that just because it's just before kickoff doesn't make it any less likely to be a long layoff. But fingers crossed it's not. He played both games, didn't he, for Jamaica? So I believe. Yeah, I can't count apparently when it comes to Carlton Morris's bookings, and I'm pleased I can't count to 5 because, yeah, as you say, hopefully he gets to go to Norwich and plays that game. But he's always useful. It wasn't his best game against Hull, but we know how important he is. And I think those 3 players you mentioned, Rob alluded to the fact that it was just a precautionary and cramp. So we're hoping that those 3 are fit to start or at least play some part in the game, which is great news. I really think that Krause is rapidly becoming one of our most important players. And
So important.
So important, especially in the press going forward. So, yeah, that's positive news. And hopefully Hashioka's had the break that he needs to get to make sure that Burke is on the right side of that defence. If he starts rather than a right wing back, because playing right wing back against the speed of Leeds with Burke fills me with dread. So yeah, even Hashi's going to struggle, but Reece Burke definitely so.
Yeah, we'll talk about the danger men a bit later. I think it's Willie Noto on that side, or possibly Manor Solomon. No, Manor Solomon's on the right. It'll be Willie Noto up against Reece Burke if he starts at right wing back. Yeah, you're right. Like Kamara had Burke roasted many times throughout that game against Hull. So yeah, I think you're right. And Marvin Camber's going to be an important one as well. I feel he's got to get through at least 60 minutes in this game, or possibly a 90-minute, and have him play a bit more of a conservative role, not pressing beyond Elijah and Carlton, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be disciplined, and that's the problem at Borough. We started really well for 30 minutes. We moved the ball well. We lost all discipline and shape the moment that they attacked and scored. So, yeah, we do that against Leeds. We're going to be walking into trouble whoever we play. One thing that's good is to see 96 minutes or so in Marv. Whether that means that he starts now on Wednesday, I don't know. This is the difficulty, isn't it? 3-game week. He's not going to start all 3 games, you probably think. I'd want him
Did back to back for Zimbabwe, didn't he, though?
Yeah, he did. I think then he certainly did. And it was great to see him start and play like we know he can. He's going to be the kind of player we need in order to help shut the door against a team like Leeds. But it just depends on how Edward sees the game and whether he sees Norwich as being the one. If he can only play one of those 2, do we save him for Norwich, where we think realistically we've got more of a chance of getting something from the game?
Yeah. But now it's time to look to the past. It's time to look at the previous encounters with Leeds United. As always, if you want to see every single game that Luton and Leeds have played, you need to go to hattersheritage.co.uk. I'll put the description. I'll put the description. I'll put the link in the description of the video. Sorry, it's very late at night. Crazy back-to-back podcast because it's a double game week. Anyway, I'll put the link in the description. You can check it out at hattersheritage.co.uk. It's the greatest football heritage site in England, possibly the world, and it has every single game, every single competitive meeting between Luton Town and Leeds United. But for the purpose of this, I'm looking at FOTMob, which I wish I hadn't even bothered looking at it because it shows 3 games. And yeah, obviously it's 2 Leeds wins, 1 draw in those 3. The most recent one being that 1-1 at Elland Road during lockdown, where Cornick scored that absolute beauty.
Yeah. What a goal that was. Out of nowhere as well. The beginning of the resurgence under Nathan Jones, wasn't it? And we held on in that game as well because they were banging at the door towards the end. Was that the game that one of their players complained that the floodlights got in his eyes?
Yeah.
I swear I remember that happening for actual real. Yeah, I thought that was it. BLC used it. I suppose us and Leeds haven't been in the same division much over the last few years, have we?
No. I think back to when we were locking horns in the Championship, and it was actually
Me
the
too.
final game before that absolute devastating run of form.
Me too.
So it went Leeds. We beat Leeds 5-1 at the Kenny, and then we went to Everton. We lost 4-0 in the League Cup third round, and then we had the wheels just came off on the pitch and off the pitch with all the agent stuff. You know, Mike Newell saying what he said,
Mhm.
and then going to Ipswich and Sol Davis having a stroke.
Yeah, of
So I
course.
sort of associate that Leeds 5-1 with the calm before the storm. But what a game that was!
Yeah, it's the one I was going to pick out as well. I think Carlos Edwards scored at least one in that game. It was an amazing game. Don't know whether I'm wrong or not. Did we lose to Ipswich to the same scoreline? Was it 5-1 we
It was
lost, or have I
5-0.
made that up? Oh, was it 5-0? I think it was
It was
close, almost like
5-0,
mirror
and
images.
the players were in a
Yeah,
state of
of
shock.
course.
Modern
Never should have
day,
been
that
played.
wouldn't have been played.
No,
The
never
game
should have
would have
been
been
played.
called off.
Yeah,
No.
of course. I think we mentioned this after the Bournemouth game, and Lockyer's heart attack, cardiac arrest on the pitch, is that it was sort of similar, that you'd never play that now. But yeah, that was an incredible game, and that was the sort of, the end of the glory days of Mike Newell, where we'd outscore opposition for fun. I think Norwich sticks in my head as well. Under those games, we score from the halfway line, more or less. But yeah, what a game that was, and that's the last one I remember us winning as well. It's not been a great record since then.
No, it hasn't. But history is there to be broken, and records are there to be beaten. So I guess we'll see what's happened. But Leeds have definitely had the better of the games against us for a while. But now it's time to kick it over to Phil. He's met with the opposition to get the lowdown on Leeds United. Take it away, Phil.
Thank you, Ollie, and thank you, Mark, for handing over. Today, I am going to be speaking to a good friend of mine, actually. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Lee. Now, Lee is not a podcaster, but he's a massive, massive Leeds United fan, to the extent where he is actually called Leeds. His name says Leeds. I'll get him to explain that to you a little bit later, but the guy absolutely loves Leeds United. He'll be absolutely loving life at the minute. Leeds sit top of the table, 2 clear on goal difference. They are very much going to be looking forward to hosting Luton Town under the lights at Elland Road on Wednesday night. And truth be told, they're not going to be fearing anyone at the minute. Even though they got pegged back to 3-3 yesterday in the game against Swansea, they still went ahead and took the 3 points. So they're absolutely loving life right now, despite some difficulties, which we'll talk about ever so shortly. As for Luton, it was a 3-point gained at the weekend at Kenilworth Road, and that's about the gist of it, really. We battled our way to 3 points. Hull City fans could be forgiven for thinking that they're very unlucky not to take a full 3 points. If things go the other side of the post, you could very easily be looking at a 3-1 loss for Luton Town. But that didn't happen, and I'm over the moon to say that we moved thoroughly up the table following those 3 points, and it's a bit of a freebie, really. I know that shouldn't necessarily be the mindset that we should have right now, but the reality of it is that Leeds are flying. I would argue that they're favourites to go up. Our away form is pretty poor, and when we've come up against some of the big guns, the likes of Burnley, the likes of Sheffield United, the likes of Middlesbrough, we've taken a bit of a pounding, unfortunately. So this could be one of those moments in the season where if we take something away from home against Leeds, then we'll be doing bloody well. But enough of me talking about Luton. My part is to examine and have a little bit of a look at Leeds United. So here's what Lee had to say a little bit later on this evening. So everyone, as promised, here is my lovely, lovely friend Lee. Now, there's only 2 things wrong with Lee. The first thing is that he supports Leeds, and the second thing is that his hairline's running away from his eyebrows. But other than that, he's the best guy I know. How you doing, Lee?
Yeah, good introduction. Thank you for that. They say to never meet your heroes, but in your case, you did, and it's been the best thing you've ever done. So no, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that. But no, I was wondering how long it'd take, and it took you 2 seconds. So well done.
I've got the power. I've got the power, and you told me what you were going to say, so I was like, I'm all over that. In all seriousness, mate, thank you for stepping in. It's one of those ones where
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, Leeds fans are
I'm sure that
to track down. Like they don't want to speak to
yeah,
us. Like they all want paying.
I'm sure they looked at their inbox, saw Luton requesting to have a bit of their time, and thought, Luton.
You're probably not far off. That's the problem. So, in the introduction I did, Lee, I said to the guys about the fact that your name is actually like Leeds, so they can they know that your name's Lee Sharp. But yeah, it was that a family thing that that you were named Leeds.
Yeah, so I've got an uncle that's name is David. And obviously my sort of dad's last name Sharp, and Lee Sharp happened to sign, I think about 2 years before I was born. I was born in 98. I think Sharp signed in
98? No, you weren't.
96. No, 88. Sorry. But yeah, no, he said, and he had always liked him, so he saw the opportunity just to turn around to my mum and be like, oh, well, sort of what about naming him Lee? And sort of, oh yeah, we could put your brother's name, David, in the middle, and sort of the initials being Leeds. So yeah, well, that's rumor has it that's the reason.
Wonderful.
And so yeah, I kind of always believed it. So yeah,
lovely stuff.
Kind of had no choice but to support them.
Lovely. No, I love that. But anyway, let's talk about some football. So you're just off the back of a 4-3 win yesterday. So it was a bit of a sketchy one. It was one of those ones where I thought that I was going to message you saying you'll take a point away from home in Wales, but you got the job done. So what did you think of the game?
I think it highlighted the current issues that we've got. And I have to admit, for first time watching it, was the first time I thought to myself, Illan Melia does concede a lot of goals, doesn't he? I've always, sort of backed him, always thought he's brilliant with his feet, and he is a good shot stopper. But he does concede a lot of goals, and, sort of more seem to go past him and sort of be saved at times. Like, he never has those sort of game-winning matches where he sort of gets you the points. Like, I've never really known him to get that. So that was kind of a concern I had. I mean, I think heart of the team's been ripped out a bit, so I kind of expecting it not to be brilliant at the moment, but yeah, to get the win is super. And I was really chuffed to see Solomon sort of getting a couple of goals, and I really hope he kicks on now, because he should be storming it in that league. He's one of the should be in the top 6 Prem team. He had his injuries, just needs to get a bit of confidence back, and hopefully he kicks on from here really, and we can see the best of him.
There's a couple,
but always nice to get a win in Wales, because just beating the Welsh is just the best thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the few times that I can actually agree with you and go, we beat a Welsh team as well. We haven't played Swansea yet, but we beat Cardiff, so we did our bit so far. No. But you were saying about like the sort of team being a little bit depleted at the minute, and I'm guessing you're talking about the centre of the midfield, because you're missing Gruev and Ampadu. And they were the sort of like linchpins in the middle there. I mean, Gruev, you've spoken to me a number of times about Gruev. You love the guy. But Ampadu's like properly important as a captain as well. So,
massively.
Yeah, who's been sort of taking the reins with those two out?
I think the Japanese chap, Tanaka. He's been like Gruev in a sense. He's sort of very just a ball winner. Just go get the ball back. Do something simple with it. Distribution. He's been really, really good. I think Rothwell is fine. He drives forward a lot, but he just seems to be a bit of a one-trick pony. Gets the ball, he'll drive predominantly towards the left of the pitch, and then sort of lay off to a winger. But they're both doing super, and I think, to be honest, it's the first time that I've really sort of hats off to Fark in a sense, because top of the league with them two out, I think is, and considering the players that we've sold as well, I think Ruta going was a shame because of the people we'd already lost. But tell any Leeds fans, if we ever thought we'd get 40 million, our money back for Ruta, you never ever would have thought it. So I think that was a good bit of business. I do struggle to listen to Farke at times during his interviews. My mind always goes to the film Frozen, that character, Big Summer Blue Hat. I do struggle to listen to him at times. But yeah, I think I was really disappointed, obviously, last year. They went on a great run and just sort of bottled it at the end, ultimately. And there's no other really word for it. They were appalling. They lost to QPR 3-0, I think it was. It was just dire. So yeah, this year doing really, really well. It'll be nice. I think Amty's back in the start of the year, so it'll be nice to see him back. And it's good to see that Ramazani on the bench as well. Can never get his last name right. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
Just
go with his first name, largely.
Just a bit. Well, I mean, the thing is, when I hear Farke, I always think of the little German pigs from Shrek. So it's interesting that he's got a whole bunch of animated characters that he sounds like. So.
And you do an excellent impression as well.
And you're not going to get it on this podcast.
Your high-pitched German is astonishing.
Yeah, we're not going to see that. But going back to the sort of team, I mean, the thing that I've been quite impressed with, because you said as well, you didn't even mention Somerville, and I think that in a weird way at the back end of last season there was an over reliance on him to do something brilliant to sort of help out the team, and obviously you lost him, but you've got Aronson back, you've got Dan James that's playing most games, you've got Solomon. Those three sort of complement in a striker, and at the moment it's Piru. But at the start of the season, it was Matteo Joseph. But what's your sort of opinions on Piru? And do you prefer to see Joseph up there? Do you think that we'll see Joseph get back in the team?
So I was chuffed to see Joseph starting at the start of the season, and really excited. I really thought, because he's always done so well for the Spain under-21s, for instance, he's just a goal merchant now at the under-21 level. So I was really, and end of last year, we were all screaming for him to be starting instead of whoever was starting at the time. But we were all sort of screaming for him. So it was lovely to see him sort of starting at the start of the season. But he just didn't get the goals. He just wasn't scoring. He was doing all the other bits right, but he just wasn't sort of scoring. So I think so that was a bit disappointing. And I think Peru is a very good finisher. So I'm not disappointed to see him up top at the moment, because he is a good. He just doesn't get. He's just never in the right place at the right time enough for me. Sort of he doesn't really get. So we've got Nonto, James, Solomon, these players that you just mentioned. At championship level, that's enough creativity and sort of getting enough chances. But so yeah, he's just, the Leeds should have a player scoring 20 plus goals with ease, and we just never really got that sort of quality finisher in the team. Even sort of when we went up to the Prem, we never. So
yeah, I mean, you could always call upon the services of old floppy Patrick Bamford.
No. Oh Lord! How PG is this podcast? Because you mentioned Bamford you're mentioning Bamford to a Leeds fan. Are we allowed to swear? Do we have to watch our language? What's the rules here, Phil?
Keep it relatively PG, but you can call him a floppy, useless idiot if you want. I mean, just not put words in
I don't think there's any other words than swearing. He got an England cap. He got capped at England level. Patrick Bamford got capped for England. Marcel Bielsa must have that on his CV and be able to get any job in world football if he wanted. It's mind-boggling. He is appalling. I hope his contract's up at the end of the year. I really, really do. Whenever he used to score, I always used to think he miscued it anyway. It's not really what he meant to do. We've relied on him for way too long, and I'll be chuffed to see him go. Wrexham can have him. They like spending a lot on wages, don't they? They can have someone that's well past their prime.
You never know. Could stay in the Championship next year with him, and if they come up.
Yeah, let's hope not, eh? Let's hope not. I think I've done really well there, not to swear. By the way,
really
you mentioned Bamford to a Leeds fan. Poor
No,
Fizz.
you did very, very well. I'm very proud of you, man. Very proud of you. And in terms of like the rest of the team, I mean, like you've got. I didn't even know that Verba was back. But I thought that he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, has he been getting game time? Like, other than this weekend?
Not so much. So I think I'd speak for most Leeds fans with this whole loan clause stuff. I think he's in the same category as Aronson. I know he's playing and he's starting, but they both think him and Verba can leave, and I wouldn't be remotely bothered. I'll be chuffed to bits to sort of see the back of them, really. They both, clearly wanted to sort of go, weren't really committed. Yes, Aronson's playing, but I just don't think he's sort of he balloons 90% of the chances he should finish anyway. Vorba, he won't get in at centre back. He's not going to get in ahead of Pascal Strug or Joe Rodon. No way. No. And I think Ampadu will drop into centre of defence before him, and Rothwell or Tanaka come in. Left back, he's got a chance because, let's be honest, Firpo gets suspended every 5 games. Yeah, every 5 games he'll get a suspension for 5 yellow cards, and so then Verba can play at left back, because we've made a sign as Schmidt at left back, and he just hasn't seemed to really come in or do anything yet. So I think he'll get a few games at left back or come on off the bench. Be amazed if he starts. He starts for Austria a lot, but I don't know what Austria's options at centre back are like. They might be appalling. So.
Well, they've got David Alaba, so they've got some decent players. So
it's
just one of those ones, isn't it? It's just a weird situation with him. But and the last player I'm going to mention as well, because we haven't mentioned him yet, and I mentioned about that sort of 3 that sort of complement the front player. He scored the winning goal yesterday, Nonto. Like, is he likely to start? Do you reckon?
Lovely little man, isn't he?
Little Willie.
Yeah. He was. A bit of love-hate, wasn't it, sort of a year or so ago with him. But yeah, love him to bits. I think he'll start. I think he didn't start because, sort of just international duty. I think he played a lot for the Italy under-21s.
Right.
But yeah, I can imagine he'll start against Luton. I think I'd like to think that Solomon will play again with Nonto on the other wing, but I'm not sure if Solomon can do a couple of games in quick succession just yet. I'm not sure if his fitness is just there. So we'll see. But yeah, I hope he starts. I mean, for yourselves, I'm sure sort of you'd prefer it not to. He is good.
This week we played 4 centre backs across the back, so it's like he's trying to be Man City or Arsenal. I think it was also through necessity. Like Doughty's out until the new year.
Is he?
Yeah, Bell dropped out as a last minute thing before the game, so we had Reece Burke on the right back. We had Mengi at left back with McGuinness and Holmes in the middle. Now the thought of Solomon and Nonto and Dan James breezing past those is a real worry for me.
I get that. I mean, sort of ultimately Leeds sort of have dictated all the games they've played, but they give chances away. Dead balls, sort of free kicks, what Luton are strong at. Adebayo up front is an absolute unit. And you will get chances, and that kind of takes me back to Melia with regards to, I just don't think he commands enough. He's still, although he's got his puberties, has kicked in for him, and he's got a bit of facial hair now. I do feel that he just doesn't command the box enough. So you'll get opportunities, absolutely.
We've got to get up the pitch firstly. That's the problem.
I know. Yeah, it's the rate that we win the ball back and things like that. I think, you haven't. It's been unfortunate. You haven't, sort of had the return to the Championship you would have wished. You haven't had the return to the Championship you would have wished, but
it's one of those ones where, like I say, I think the difficult thing is, I speak to you all the time. Like, we lost the absolute middle of our midfield. Like, all the sort of things that Barkley and Lokonga gave us, we've lost, and we don't really utilise our midfield yet. Like, we've got a new fella that we've bought, and he's starting for us back in January. He was shown to us at the pitch at the weekend, called Lamine Fan. So I think there's a lot of hope for him. But at the moment, we're playing quite a lot of simple football where it goes from back to front quite quick. But the problem is it goes from front to back quite quick. And with the fiddly little players that you've got that got real skill on the ball, it could be quite an interesting one. But that brings me to my last question. What do you think the score's going to be?
I don't think we'll blow you away. I think in terms of the stats, we'll blow you away, but I don't think the scoreline will. I think it will be 2-0 Leeds. Like I said, I think, we don't seem to... Yes, we scored 4 goals against Swansea, but I think that was more through necessity because, they got the 3 against us. If you were to score, I think it would be from a dead ball, odd corner, free kick, something like that.
So everyone, that was my mate Lee. He took the banter very, very well. He's a top lad, and really, really pleased to have him on. He knows his stuff about Leeds. He thinks that they're going to win. I think that he knows the team. He knows how they're going to play. He knows that they're going to be probably dominant in virtually every area of the game, and he's kind of hoping that they get the job done and that our big lads don't punish him from set pieces. He's clearly really worried about Meslier as well, which I thought was quite interesting because his name hasn't sort of popped up to my knowledge as a real concern, other than that gigantic fluff that he did earlier on in the season where the ball just span the wrong way. So I guess he's a bit of a calamity. We just have to test him. Let's see what we can do. But he's got down Leeds 2-0. I know that the lads have had all their predictions for the Sluga 6, so check out OK Football Show on our socials, and I'll hand back to the lovely Ollie and Mark. Take it away, gents.
Thank you very much, Phil. Smashed it, as always. How funny is it? Because the guy you met with is called Lee Sharp, and he's a Leeds fan. That's just hilarious.
Wow, times have changed, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, there's no point in us having a look at the opposition. Just briefly, who's absolutely putting the fear of God in you before we play Leeds?
I mean, where do we start? James, for me, just the pace down that side without Alfie Dowsey is quite scary, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, Willie Nelson came on and scored. He's amazing. Matteo Joseph's not been playing that well recently, but we saw at the start of the season what he can do. Yeah, pretty much any of them, to be honest, apart from Meslier, who I'm hoping will just throw one in his own net like he did against Sunderland. Yeah, they're all terrifying.
Yeah, Matteo Joseph, he's got pace as well. And one thing, hopefully Mengi will be up against him because Mengi's pretty much the only one in our back line with pace. Tanaka, he's filling in very well from Ethan Ampadu, and he can thread a ball, he can win a midfield battle. I'm very worried about him because that's why we need Marv Nakamba there. I'd much rather Marv do another 90 than need to get rested for Norwich because I'm dreading that. I'm really dreading it. But that was our take on the Danger Men. Now it's time for score predictions. Okay, so I don't know why I was so optimistic and perky during that segue because I'm bricking this. I'm bricking it for this game. Genuinely, I've gone 2-0 Leeds. That is purely based in hope of the fact that Leeds tend to, if you play dead, Leeds kind of back off and they don't really try and, score 3s, 4s and 5s. Well, at least I don't think they have this season so far. So that's my rationale for a 2-0.
You just hope we just lay in the centre circle like a possum. Please. I'm not that scared about it because I feel like the pressure's off, which is quite nice. And it's a nice feeling as a Luton fan where it's clearly all been on our shoulders. But yeah, there are ways to lose a game. And if we lose a game like we did against Borough, that's not going to help anybody. And there's every chance of that happening. I guess, though, that even if the best Luton turn up, then I would still back Leeds to probably beat us at home. I've gone 3-1. I think Leeds will score. I mean, they scored 4 in the last game away from home. And yeah, all right, they only won it 4-3 because Swansea were fantastic in that game as well and count themselves unlucky. But Luton have shown nothing away from home all season, but particularly recently. And I can't see anything other than a relatively convincing Leeds win. I just hope that the fight that was missing against Borough is there against Leeds, and we can hold our heads high afterwards and go into Norwich with a bit of confidence, whatever that really looks like. So in that way, I'm not that worried. Am I looking forward to watching it? No, I'm not. But yeah, let's just hope that they will almost certainly score, and when they do, that we react to it a lot better than we did when Borough scored and when Coventry scored in the previous game, by just heads dropping and everything else. So fingers crossed the fight from Hull has helped with that a bit.
So well said. I just hope there isn't a complete capitulation. I guess we'll see what happens, and hopefully this is a corner turned, as Gary Sweet said in his boardroom notes. There have been very constructive conversations, so we'll go from there, and we're all behind the team. We just want to see fight, desire. We want to see the team actually making an effort, fighting for the ball. I guess we'll see what happens. But that's it for us this week, and I'm sure we'll see you again for the Norwich preview and also the Championship Game Week 17 predictions. But that's us signing off, and remember, subscribe to our channel if you're watching and you're not already subscribed. So much Luton Town content, so much Championship content. But as always, up to Leeds we go. Come on, you Hatters.